Hey, welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I'm thrilled to be joined by Antonio Garrido, who is the author of My Daily Leadership, Powerful Roadmap for Leadership Success, something that I'm very passionate about over here. And I know, Antonio, you have quite the background with over 25 years in senior leadership positions with world-class businesses, which is exactly what we want to talk about today. Antonio, welcome to the program.
Thanks ever so much. I do appreciate the invitation. Shalom. Hello.
Hello, welcome. So I know you are a serial entrepreneur, successful business coach, author, charismatic speaker, and I know you've worked with leaders from small private businesses right up to Fortune 60 companies as well. Antonio, why are you so passionate about business? How did you originally catch that bug?
Gosh, that's a good question. Why am I so passionate about business? Because so love makes the world go round, but right behind that, I guess it's business, right? I've been fortunate enough to, and I think we all have probably, to work for some tremendous leaders and some dreadful leaders too. And throughout my career, I've been putting together, I guess, what is a good leader? What is a great leader? What is an average leader? What is great leadership? It's really hard to define. So I started thinking about that maybe 20 years ago, and over the last 20 years or so have been putting together this model, shall we say, for great leadership. I think that leadership is all over the place. Great leadership is hard to find, and so what I've been trying to do is trying to steer people towards greatness, and that's really why we put the book together.
Absolutely, and that's going to be my quote of the week. That's for sure. Good leaders are plentiful, but but they become great leaders once they realize that they have to certainly improve themselves and others, which is great. And I know that you have coached many companies. Certainly with that mindset. So this is not a regular book, I'd say, from looking at a little bit of the content myself. My Daily Leadership, a powerful roadmap being the keyword for leadership success. So Antonio, what is My Daily Leadership, and how did you come up with this roadmap and this model for C-suiters and senior managers?
So that's a great question. I think it boils down to this, if I could distill it down to its core principles, is that lots of leaders think that the way to good leadership is as a consequence of time served, right? So they get enough miles under their belt or miles under their wheels, and they, by some process of osmosis, I suppose, become a great leader. But that's actually not true. That's not the case. That's not true. I've seen tremendous leaders they're not even in leadership positions, surprisingly enough. And then I've seen individuals who, at the very top of organizations, in huge and complex and difficult organizations, and you just wonder how on earth they got there. They tend not to last too long. But the principle is that time served isn't the key to greatness or to great leadership. The key to great leadership is, I think, really more than anything else, is wisdom. And where does wisdom come from? Well, wisdom comes from evaluated experience. And evaluated experience requires a high degree of self-awareness, and sort of emotional intelligence lies at the heart of all of that. Well, unfortunately, people tend not to be nearly as self-aware as they'd like to think they are. Just ask most people, do they reckon themselves better than average driver, and 80% of people reckon that they are better than average. Well, if you think about that, the maths doesn't quite work, right? So self-awareness at leadership level is in pitiful supply, unfortunately. So the book is intended to help people to improve their self-awareness. I did a talk some years ago to a couple of thousand leaders, and I asked the audience to, by show of hands, who recognizes that they have some leadership blind spots, right? And so, thankfully, nearly everybody put their hands up. So that was terrific. So, okay, some awareness of leadership blind spots. So good, off to a good start. And then I asked everybody to put their hands down and then for them to write down what their leadership blind spots are. And then things started to get rather tricky, as you can imagine, because as a consequence of them being blind spots, people aren't aware. They recognize they will have some blind spots, but they actually don't know what they are. And unfortunately, as you go higher up in an organization, the principle of truth seems to be in short supply, right? Especially if you're the person who, signs the checks, decides who gets promoted and where people's car parking spaces are in the car park, right? So leaders need to develop enormously better self-awareness habits. So that's a daily process. When I then started to connect leadership, self-awareness, eliminating blind spots, daily process, evaluated experience, it occurred to me that the best mechanism to help leaders discover all of these issues and to help them reach their own full potential, which then allows them to help their people reach their full potential, which then allows the organization to reach its full potential, is by this daily process of self-reflection, which is journaling. And so I started to look around for, the perfect leadership journal, such that I could give to people that I knew and liked and trusted and wanted to help, say, hey, do this. But as you could probably imagine, there wasn't one to be found.
I'm chatting with Antonio Garrido, the author of My Daily Leadership, a powerful roadmap for leadership success. We've got to squeeze in a very quick break here and get down to business. We'll be right back when we return with more conversations about My Daily Leadership and how it can make you not just a good leader, but a great leader. I'll be back with Antonio in just a moment. As promised, I'm joined again by the author of My Daily Leadership, Powerful Roadmap for Leadership Success. I'm chatting with Antonio Garrido. And Antonio, you've already shared a lot with our listeners, so I don't know how we can top it. But I know that there are some very, very key takeaways for, frankly, everybody, but certainly for entrepreneurs who you work with every single day. Antonio, we're having this conversation mid to late 2022. What are the key takeaways that you want our listeners to put into action in the week ahead?
So, great question. Look, I want everybody to be on a journey of self-discovery and self-improvement. Entrepreneurs, leaders from very small to very big, right? Anybody that has any responsibility for people, for an organization, it's the leader's job to maximize their potential, their people's potential, and the future position of the organization, right? To future-proof themselves, their people, and their business. Remember, leaders lead whether they want to or not. They communicate whether they want to or not. But most of all, they encourage what they tolerate in themselves and others. So this principle of self-awareness in a very targeted way. So this daily self-awareness, and it can just be as simple as, hey, at the end of the day, what does my leadership report card look like for today? Would I give myself an A+, an A, an A-, a B+, and what should I have done? What could I have done when I said this? What could I have said? What did I fail to do? So really, really have a good long look in the mirror and resolve to be better tomorrow. The book talks about the 5 key areas of great leadership, which is people development and company development and self-development and strategy development and leadership development. And we take leaders through this whole process of what are the elements of people development and how do they influence whether or not their people are improving in all of those areas. And so the book is, the book suggests that leaders should look at themselves first, then their people, and then their company in those 5 areas of people, company, self-development, strategy development, leadership development, and reflect every day on where they could have improved. And it takes them on a 2-year program of that, because it takes that long to turn around an oil tanker sometimes. But it's done in a very easily digestible, it's not a heavy lift, but It's like a pension. A journal is like a pension. You get out more than you put in. But any leader that tells you that they want to improve, they want to see the business do well, or anybody really, and they don't journal, then don't believe them. If you can think of any successful sports person, entertainer, or a leader, right? Think of the best and the biggest leaders that you can imagine. They all journaled. Is it a coincidence? No, it isn't. So start to journal, start to self-reflect on a daily basis, start to be structured about the areas that you want to improve. And if you want to really know how to do that really, really, really well, get the book.
Get the book, and that's a really key takeaway over here. And I mentioned earlier in our segment, in our time together with Antonio Garrido, is that My Daily Leadership is not a regular book. It is really, really a roadmap. Antonio, how can we get in touch with you? And as you said a moment ago, allow people to get the book.
Well, that's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So to get in touch with me, and I genuinely would like you to do that, and somebody will get back to you, probably me. It's just Antonio@mydailyleadership.com. And the website is www.mydailyleadership.com, and pick your store from below, and pre-order it. It'll be available from the 30th of August.
Awesome. That's exciting. We are getting a very sneak peek over here, and certainly, Antonio, you've shared a lot with our listeners that I want our listeners to put into practice, but certainly, as we said a moment ago, to pick up a copy of the book, mydailyleadership.com. You could get in touch with me on my website, shalomklein.com. That's where you get a sneak peek of each week who we're going to have on Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I always encourage our listeners to get in touch with our sponsor, Tom Arabali at healthplanchicago.com, healthplanchicago.com for everything Affordable Care Act and Obamacare related. That's a wrap for us here on Get Down to Business to Success. We'll talk to you next week. To success, let's get down to business.